It was a cold October night. The moon barely broke through the thick clouds, casting a pale glow over the forgotten countryside of Eastern Europe. At the heart of an overgrown forest, hidden for generations, stood a decaying mansion Blackamoor Estate. Eleanor Hayes, a young folklorist, had arrived with a purpose to uncover the truth behind a local legend from the 1800s. The legend spoke of Victor Wexley, the last known resident of Blackamoor, and a man the villagers called the Bone Collector. It was said Victor had murdered his victims and preserved their bones in an underground chamber. No one had dared enter the mansion for decades, not since Samuel Brandt, a journalist, vanished there in 1972. Eleanor wasn't alone. With her were Darren Cole, her ex-military fiancé, and Jude Holloway, her childhood friend and a passionate documentarian. Together, they hoped to create a documentary that would reveal the truth behind the myth and maybe win awards in the process. But as the heavy wooden doors creaked open, an unsettling chill greeted them. The air inside was dense with mildew, rot, and something far older than dust. Eleanor began searching the library for journals or records. Darren moved upstairs to inspect the layout, while Jude wandered the halls, filming everything. The first sign something was wrong came that night. Reviewing the footage, Jude noticed something strange. In one of the mirror reflections, behind his own shoulder, there was a figure, featureless, faceless, watching, then gone. Doors began closing on their own. The walls creaked with whispers that none of them could trace. Eleanor found a music box in a child's bedroom. When she opened it, a high-pitched giggle echoed through the room, though no child had lived there in over a century. By morning, Jude had vanished. His shattered camera lay in the dining hall, smeared with blood. The footage on the card showed him screaming at a wall, eyes wide in terror. "He's in the walls. The walls are breathing." Panicked, Darren tried to force open the front door, but it was locked tight, as if by some unseen hand. Looking through the windows, the forest outside seemed wrong to. The trees weren't where they had been. The paths had changed. They were no longer in the same place, or the same time. Eleanor pieced together torn pages from a journal she found in the library. It was Victor Wexley's final entries. They spoke of a curse that Blackamoor fed on fear, that each person who died inside became part of the house. Their bones weren't trophies, they were prison cells for souls. Determined to fight back, Darren found a hidden attic door. Inside, he discovered the infamous collection room, bones stacked in labeled glass cases, polished skulls grinning in eternal silence. In the corner, Jude's body, still clutching his camera, mouth open in a silent scream. The mirror beside the display shimmered. The faceless figure reappeared, staring into Darren's eyes, whispering, "Your fear is loneliness, and now, you'll never be alone again." A final scream, then silence. Eleanor stumbled into the music room later that night. A blood-scrawled message on the wall read, "You are one of us now." The whispers grew louder. The floor throbbed like a living thing. Eleanor looked into a cracked mirror and saw her reflection, eyes pitch black. Her reflection smiled and whispered, "You've always been here." It hit her then. The house didn't just trap people, it trapped time. Everyone who entered was absorbed into a loop. Blackamoor wasn't haunted, it was the haunt. Years later, a new team arrived. Paranormal investigators, calling themselves Spectral Truth. Their leader, Marla Voss, was a seasoned researcher. With her came Nathan Griggs, a sound specialist, and Aidan Clark, a young psychic sensitive to the other side. As they crossed the threshold of Blackamoor, the temperature dropped instantly. The air inside felt thick, slow, like time had forgotten to move. Nathan set up his recorders. Marla stabilized the camera. Aidan drifted toward the entrance mirror, now foggy with condensation. On the glass, faintly etched in the fog by a small hand, were the words, "No way back." The group explored further. In one upstairs bedroom, a candle was still lit. On the desk, yellowed papers, Victor Wexley's childhood notes. His mother's death, his obsession with bones, his claim that the bones spoke. As Aidan read, tears rolled down his face. His eyes turned milky white. In a voice not his own, he whispered, "They aren't trophies, they're locks. Spirits, trapped inside." The closet door flung open behind them. A decomposed corpse fell to the floor, swinging from a rotten rope. It looked eerily like Eleanor. On the first floor, They found the music room. All clocks had started ticking backward. The old music box began to play again, this time with a child's voice. "You came again. How many times will you try?" Aiden collapsed, eyes still white. In his vision, he stood in the mansion as it was in 1860, servants dancing, noble guests laughing, but they all had empty eyes, no mouths, just staring. Marla saw his face shift through identities: Jude, Darren, Eleanor, and then Victor. Aiden spoke again, in a deeper voice. "I tried to bring them back, but the house won't let go." Nathan found a secret passage in the library. Behind the wall, a stone staircase led into a cold underground chamber. In the center an ancient ritual circle, drawn in blood. Skulls arranged in symmetrical patterns. And bones, so many bones. As Aiden stepped into the circle, blood trickled from his eyes. His face flickered like a broken projection. The house wanted something. It was awakening. "If one stays," he whispered, "the others can leave." Suddenly, the front doors burst open. For the first time in decades, sunlight poured in. Marla and Nathan bolted toward it. Aiden stood at the threshold. He smiled. "Tell them, the house remembers." He stepped back. The door slammed shut months later. Spectral truth never returned to Blackamore. Nathan and Marla refused to speak of it. Whenever they tried, their voices were distorted on tape. Cameras malfunctioned, mirrors cracked. But the house remained, and Aiden Clark, he was now part of it, waiting. Weeks had passed since Aiden Clark vanished behind the doors of Blackamore Estate. News outlets reported his disappearance as a tragic accident, and spectral truth quietly dissolved. But the story didn't die. It whispered just like the house itself. One of those whispers reached Dr. Lena Morell, a parapsychologist obsessed with spatial anomalies and haunted architecture. For years, Lena had studied locations that seemed to distort reality. She had seen bent walls and endless hallways, but none compared to the mythology surrounding Blackamore. She assembled a team, no amateurs this time. Dr. Elias Murney, physicist and time theorist. Mara Lenz, spiritual medium, rumored to have crossed the veil and returned. Vincent Krall, former priest turned occult investigator. They called themselves Project Threshold, not investigators, not filmmakers, explorers. They didn't come to document the house. They came to confront it. When they arrived, the front gates were already open. "That's not right," Vincent muttered. "The estate is supposed to be sealed, permanently." The front doors were wide. As they stepped inside, something was off. The interior was clean. The dust had vanished. The walls, once cracked and blood-stained, were freshly painted. A fire burned in the hearth. "It's welcoming us," Mara whispered. Dr. Morell glanced at the clock on the mantel. It ticked forward. Unlike the Spectral Truth Team's account, the house wasn't reversing time now. It was flowing normally, but too normally, too perfect. Meanwhile, Dr. Murney explored the basement levels with a pocket gravity scanner. What he found shouldn't have been possible. The device showed mass fluctuations, like the house had organs. As if it was shifting, pulsing. He marked one corner on the map. A sealed door, covered with wax. Strange runes circled the frame. "It's a lock," Vincent said, arriving behind him. "Something's behind that door." Mara approached, hands trembling. "Not something," she whispered. "All of them." That night, Vincent walked alone through the East Wing. As a former priest, he claimed he could sense when a place breathed, and this one didn't breathe, it watched. He stood in front of a tall, warped mirror. A familiar voice echoed behind him. Jude's voice, "You left me here." He spun around, empty. The hallway smelled of burning cloth. That night, they opened the door. The chamber beyond was vast, far larger than any part of the house should have allowed. It felt endless. Bones floated midair, suspended in a silent vortex. Faces flickered in the darkness: Jude, Eleanor, Darren, Aiden. Not quite alive, not quite dead. A pillar stood in the center, bound in flesh, pulsing. "This is the core," Lena said. "The house's heart." And then they heard it: laughter. Children's laughter. But reversed. One by one the team members were split. Mara collapsed into a trance, eyes rolling back, whispering, "Time was never straight here. This place folds it, eats it, plays it like a song." She began speaking in voices that weren't hers. A child's. then Eleanor's, then Victor Wexley's. Vincent began to pray, but the words turned to ash in his mouth. His crucifix bent inward, twisted into a spiral. Dr. Murney screamed. He held up the scanner. It displayed negative time. They were no longer moving forward or backward, they were trapped outside time. The mansion began to twist. Walls folded like paper. Rooms collapsed into each other. Doors no longer led to rooms, but to memories. Vincent opened one door and found himself in a church where he had performed his last exorcism. Except everyone in the pews had no eyes. Lena stepped through another end, found her own childhood bedroom. Except her reflection in the mirror was 30 years older and bleeding from the mouth. "You're already in the house," the reflection said. "You never left. None of you ever left." Hours or years later, they regrouped in the central chamber. Mara stood beside the flesh-bound pillar. "I understand now," she said quietly. "This isn't just a haunted house. It's a convergence point. The souls trapped here, they're not held by ghosts, they're held by the space itself. This mansion is a dimensional parasite." She turned to face them. Her face flickered. For a moment it wasn't her face. It was Aiden's, then Eleanor's, then Victor Wexley's. Mara smiled. "There's only one way to stop it. One of us must become the seal willingly." Lena stepped forward. "Don't," she whispered. "There has to be another way." But Mara had already closed her eyes. She began to hum the tune from the music box. And then, the floor shook. A loud snap. The pillar broke. Light flooded the chamber. For the first time, the house screamed. It bled. And then, silence. The remaining team awoke outside the estate. The mansion behind them, gone. In its place, a crater. Nothing but black earth, scorched and humming faintly. Lena, Vincent, and Elias survived. But none spoke again. Not a word. And the music box. It was found at Lena's bedside 3 nights later, still playing. Inside it, carved in the lid, "She kept the whispers for you."